Hello. Welcome to chapter 3 of this Introduction to ASP.NET tutorial. In this chapter we will learn about the ASPX page. ASPX is the file extension used by the ASP.NET technology to create dynamic web pages. You can also call ASPX pages web forms. Okay, let's begin. The agenda for this chapter is as follows. First we will talk about ASPX pages using what we learned in the previous chapters. Then I will explain how ASP.NET answers the concerns about working with web servers that we talked about in the previous chapter. Finally we will learn about Visual Web Developer, the tool we will use to create ASP.NET web applications, and walk through a demonstration. You can download Visual Web Developer Express from http://www.asp.net. Come with me to the next slide to begin. An ASPX page is a dynamic web page. This means that it follows the same process we talked about previously, but with some added functionality. At this time, I should explain a couple of concepts. In first place, you need to know a little about request and response. Then you need to know a little about sessions. When someone loads a web page, we call that a request to the web server. When the server answers with a requested HTML, we call that a response. I would also like to mention that once the server sends you the page, the response. It's important to know that once the server sends you the page, the response, the server doesn't know what you do with a page. You could read it, scroll, and even close the browser, and the server will never know. This disconnect between the client and the server is the nature of web applications. The only way they communicate is through requests and responses. Imagine that you want to load a web page to display a certain car model, the good-looking car number 1 model. Well, such a car. Probably you select the model from a combo box and then do the request to the server by clicking a button. The server receives the request and processes it. Most probably retrieves information from a database. Then it creates and sends a new HTML page with the information requested as the response. After that, the server will be busy responding to other requests from other people. It won't know anything about what you did with the page it gave you. Now, imagine that you see another car and want to know more about the good-looking car number 2 model, or a comparison between good-looking car number 1 and good-looking car number 2. So you make another request to the server. The server receives the request, but it also receives a little more information that indicates you are the same person who made a previous request a few moments ago. So it can't get confused. This extra information is usually stored in something called a cookie. You can learn more about cookies in the recommended readings. But for now you just need to know that a cookie is a little file stored on your computer, containing information about your web session. Don't worry, it's not sensitive information. Just the minimal information that the web server uses to recognize where the request originates. Let me think. I will explain this with the following example. Remember those old restaurants where you go with your car, placed an order, and they put a big number on your table so they knew where to deliver the food. All the orders corresponded to different numbers to make sure that the right food got delivered to the right places. The same concept applies here. The server needs anonymous information about the connection with you in order to make sure you get the right response. Note that this information is created when you establish a session with a web server. and the information is kept while the session is active. When a user makes the first request to the web server, the server creates a session for that user. This session will be active until someone or something ends the session or a timeout occurs. The session is managed by the server. The session will be alive till someone or something ends the session or a timeout occurs. The session is managed by the server. This means that you can disconnect from your session, closing the web browser for example. But you can't end your session unless the web application explicitly provides a mechanism to do that. For example, a button on the web page that closes the session. Session management requires server resources. It is important to design your web applications to utilize these resources efficiently. One mechanism for managing session is the timeout limit. If a user doesn't initiate another request within a certain time limit, the server automatically closes the session and frees up some resources to service other requests. If the user makes another request after the timeout limit is reached, they will get a session expired message. The timeout limit for a session is set by each web application, and so may be different for each website. Okay, returning to our lesson. A typical dynamic web page contains code that the server executes before sending back a response to the client. I want to show you simplified version of the ASPX process, so you can understand it better. Come with me to the next slide. Imagine that we've created a web application and hosted it on a web server, but nobody has requested a page from it yet. Well, just now we have the first person in the world requesting a page from our website. This is the first request. Let's say this person is in Australia. Here is what the request process would look like. The visitor requests a page from the web server. Prior to sending a response to the client, the server analyzes the requested page. This is the parser's job. After the parser does its job, the page needs to be compiled. In the first chapter I explained what an interpreter does. Now I would like to explain what compiler does. In the computer world, compiling is the process of translating the actual code you write in a programming language, like Visual Basic.NET, into machine language, which consists of instructions that a computer can understand and execute. So, the code contained in ASPX files is converted by the compiler into Microsoft Intermediate Language, MIL, which the server can process and understand. Then the server loads, compiles and executes the MIL code. And the page goes from the server memory to the client computer, and to the user's browser. Now, this whole process could sound a little confusing. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. The important thing to remember about this is that the code in the ASPX page was compiled by the very first user request. The code for all subsequent server requests will already be compiled and ready to execute. So the page load process will be faster, because the server won't need to parse or compile the page again, because it will be using the pre-compiled version instead. Now it's time for a demo. The ASPX pages are part of a Microsoft technology called Active Server Pages or ASP.NET. In this demo I will show you one of the tools Microsoft created to build web applications using this technology. Visual Web Developer Express, a tool you can download for free from http://www.asp.net. Go to the demo.
Hello. I am Petey, the Microsoft agent. Maybe you've seen my handsome face on TV. I will be your guide during this demo. This is Visual Web Developer Express Edition. And the first thing I am going to do is to create a new website. Simply click on File, then New Website. As you can see, we have many options on what kind of website we want to create. Let's choose to create an ASP.NET website. We'll name it Demo Site. OK, click. Here is our site already set up for us. As you can see, it doesn't have too many pages because we haven't started working with it yet. Here we have a page already created for me, named Default. This is the first page a user will get when they go to my website without specifying a particular page. That's why it's called the default page. But we could always rename it if we like. The Solution Explorer window is where we can see all the pages listed in our website. Here it is. Now I will add a new page by right-clicking and selecting Add New Item. We have many options for what type of item we want to create. Let's select a new web form or an ASPX page. And let's name it My First Page. And click the Add button. Great. Here is my new page. And now let me show you how to work with it. Over to your left is the toolbox window, where you can find all the controls to put on your page. First, let's change the display to the design instead of the source view. Simply click the Design tab at the bottom left. Much better for me. Let's go ahead and type in Hello World. Hello World. Very simple, but it works right away. To view the page in the browser, right-click on the page, then select View in Browser. Ouch, I forget to save the page. Now is okay. Notice this pop-up balloon, alerting us that our ASP.NET application is running locally. Visual Web Developer Express comes with a web server, so you can test your work on your local computer. Once you finish your site, you will need to publish it on the internet for others to see it. Here we have the results. Come with me to Visual Web Developer Express. Now let's add some controls to my page. Let me see. Simply drag and drop a drop-down list control onto the page. And a button. And a label. Let's add some values to the drop-down list. Notice the little arrow on the control. It gives me a menu of common tasks I can do. Let's add some items. The first item will be number 1. The second item, number 2. Okay, we are ready. Now let's write some code. what do we want to have happen? The user should be able to select a value from the drop-down list. Then, when they click the button, the label will display the item they selected. The button will need to send the selected value from the drop-down list back to the server, so it can determine the correct information to display in the label. So, I need to create code for when the button is clicked. We can simply double-click over the button control to bring up the correct place to insert this code. This code will execute when the user clicks the button. Every control I add to the page has a default name, which is the generic control name followed by a number. For example, the label control is called label 1. After I type in label 1, I type a dot. Then I see that intelligence is trying to help me choose an appropriate property for the label. Let me choose the text property, so I can change what text is displayed in the label. Let's type "you selected" and note that I put the phrase surrounded by quotation marks. And the and symbol is a way to join two phrases together. Now I need to get the value that was selected from the drop-down list. We can do this by typing drop-down list 1, selected value to string. To string is a way to convert the selected item into a character string. Now, let's see how it looks in the browser. Nice, eh? Now, let's run it. Good work!
Thank you very much. See you in the next chapter.